Hey people, Philip Link here, and today on Started Up we have with us the king of all the Toyotas, the 2024 TRD Pro Sequoia. This full-size SUV is the largest and most expensive car that Toyota makes, and the third-gen Sequoia here packs in just about every single feature you'd expect. Now I've been blown away by this car, so I'm excited to share a little bit of its perfection with you today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now the Sequoias are Toyota's big boys when it comes to their fleet of vehicles. Really, it's a Tundra with an extended cab at the back, and Toyota's been platforming with the Tundra and the Sequoia sharing the same steel ladder frame chassis and powertrain. Then you have the new Tacoma and 4Runner platform sharing their same chassis and powertrain, and then you have kind of the oddball out, the new Land Cruiser, which kind of fits as smaller than this, but a little bit different than what the 4Runner offers. Now I plan to put an order in for our 2025 TRD Pro 4Runner when those get released, but for now, focus on this guy. Now for the Sequoias, they offer 5 different trim levels. You've got the SR5, Limited, Premium, TRD Pro, and the Capstone. The TRD Pro is the top of the line model when it comes to price, and it's the rugged version where the Capstone is the road-focused luxury model. Now the SR5 and Limited models come with an 8-seater interior, but the Premium, Capstone, and TRD Pro offer the captain's chairs and only have 7 seats. Now the TRD Pro is the off-road focused version of the Sequoia, but with this you're not getting a big mutter or rock crawling machine, more just the intention of being a little more rugged and overlanding focused. When you order and spec out a TRD Pro, it automatically goes through and pulls in a bunch of the options that are unique and special to this car. There's really not a lot of upgrades you can add on top of it from Toyota, but it comes pre-selected with all these special features. Across the board, the most fundamental difference is the Fox TRD Pro suspension, which has the machine wishbone control arms in the front and multi-link suspension in the rear with remote reservoirs on those Fox shocks. It also has the TRD Pro sway bar, which does not disconnect in the front. Now these are not dynamic shocks, which are changing with the different drive mode selectors inside. They are just fixed as is with adjustability on the outside. Now with this suspension, you cannot get the load leveling air ride suspension on the rear, which is an option on the Capstone and some of the other models. Now the thing that is standard on this car is the 10-speed automatic transmission paired with a locking rear diff, and in the front of that is the brand new iForce Max V6 Twin-Turbo hybrid powertrain. Now the iForce Max is putting out 437 horsepower and it pumps out 538 pound-feet of torque, which is boosted by that hybrid powertrain with the electric motor here in the rear. Now this powertrain has a 288-volt NIM battery here on the rear, which has 1.87 kilowatt hours of capacity, really just a booster for the motor that's paired between the engine and the transmission to get that instant torque. Now reliability has always been Toyota's claim to fame, with the outgoing V8 being just a bulletproof engine in the Sequoias. Right now we're just going to have to wait and see the long-term results of these hybrid powertrains, as they're just so much more complex than the outgoing V8 and probably cannot compete with durability and reliability, but time will tell. I'll be happy to be pleasantly surprised on the reliability of these powertrains. Now as we were talking about size earlier, the TRD Pro Sequoia, or just the Sequoias in general, are massive, and this thing barely fits in my garage. The overall length is coming in at 208 inches. It is 77.7 inches tall with 9 inches of ground clearance, and then it is 79.8 inches wide, right there on the 80-inch mark, requiring the 3 amber indicators that are on the front with the DOT's 80-inch rule for lighting. Now the steps here are super nice for getting in and then climbing up onto the top, for loading things on the roof rack there. But with the 9-inch clearance, these are definitely in the contact zone, but that'll be nice to protect your lower trim panels here. The body itself is a mixture of aluminum and steel panels just to decrease the weight where possible. But like we said, it's on the steel chassis shared with the new Tundras. Now underneath on this model, you do have the front TRD Pro skid plate, and then there is an optional cat shield to protect your catalytic converter from those lousy cat thieves, and I would recommend adding that option on, as you'll never regret having it. Now all of these options on this car do not come cheap. The TRD Pro Sequoia MSRP starts at $79,000, and then with some of the additional accessories, dash cam, we've got the roof rack here, this one rolled up to about $84K. Now with the classic thinking, you say that is a lot for a Toyota, but when you get inside and actually drive and use this thing a lot, you really start to realize how great this car is. I think we're all just gonna have to accept that as Toyotas get more luxurious, their price is gonna just keep going up. But thankfully they do keep some of the lower end models down into the budget price range just to get them all over the road. Now starting here at the front, we do have the unique TRD Pro Sequoia grille, and then in there is the additional TRD Pro light bar that has an optional switch on the inside. That light bar will only turn on when your brights are on, so it is mixed into the system. And like we said, we have the amber indicators there around the front. Complete new restyling with the headlights, which I think are a great looking headlight in there with this entire surface glowing around the outside. Coming around the side, we do have on the TRD Pro, they call it a digital print, kind of ingrained into the plastic. Not sure if I love it or not yet, but an option that comes standard on the TRD Pro, you cannot go without. Now, one of the options that you can pick is the extra large towing mirror, which has a blind spot mirror down below. This is just the standard mirror, but it does have the auto dimming built into the mirror itself and your blind spot indicators on both sides. As we said earlier, the runner coming along the bottom there, pretty easy to run up on. And then on the rear, that multi-link suspension with the Fox shocks built in there with the remote reservoir. On all four corners on the TRD Pro, we do have the Falcon Wild Peak all-terrain tires on there, and then the aluminum BBS forged rims, which are a massive pain to clean, and all those little cracks in there. They look good though. Gas cap is locked, release button on the inside. Coming around the back, we do have the release button on the window, getting in there easily. Here is the mirror camera, which is hidden behind the glass versus being mounted onto the glass. And we also have the special TRD Pro twin tip exhaust. And the thing actually sounds pretty good, nothing snarly. On this side, we do have the foot to open on the tailgate. So that pops up there. And then everything in the back there. Since we got the back open, we'll go ahead and look in through here. You do have a massive amount of space here on the back. Down below this little cover, which is movable. You've got some extra little tote storage in there. And then on the right hand side here, we do have that 120 volts power coming through on the rear. On the right side here, we have the automatic seats flip up there on the back. That's how you open up the rear seats. Now these control buttons are both here and down in the cab itself, so you can control from inside the front and the back. Now flipping this seat back down, click the button, drops in. Then coming around to the inside, on the door here, we do have the nice shades. And this is an option on both the doors and the back windows for your passengers. All throughout, we do have the nice JBL audio. And with the TRD Pro, you have the option of having this leather all in red or in this black here. Both ways it comes with this digital kind of camo print. Not sure what I think about it. You can't really see it at some angles, but it is in there when you look at it. Now I have a Highlander and been in the back of the Grand Highlander, and the difference between this car versus that is there's a little more focus in the Highlander, Grand Highlander, on these mid seats being comfortable, whereas this one is fixed, and we have the lever here, which is the flip down option to get into the back of the vehicle like so. In the Highlander, they slide forward and back. They are fixed on this one, just that flip up capability. The back seats do have a decent amount of legroom back there. Their seats can slide both forward and back, all the way to the rear, and then they have USB-C connections there on the rear, along with AC vents on the roof for a fully rear-controlled AC system there. Coming around to the front, which we'll get more into in the drive, we've got all our controls here on the left side. That light bar I was talking about is built in here with a couple optional blinks. Now the most defining feature on this car is obviously the massive screen here right in the middle. It's huge and seems a little unnecessary, but after driving this for a couple thousand miles, going back and moving my Tacoma around, the screen in there seems tiny, so I've grown to love this and really have no complaints towards that. Down below, you still have a full button-controlled AC system. Does not require the touchscreen in any way to run all that, with a wireless charger set down below for the wireless Apple CarPlay. When you first get behind the wheel on the TRD Pro Sequoia, you notice three key points. First, this thing is massive. Your edges, a little bit hard to see with the hood just going out so far and dropping down. You can't quite tell your lines. Two, despite it being that large, the visibility and light coming into this thing is quite impressive. These are very large windows, and actually I think a little much light where you probably need a window tint here. And the third is the engine with the torque and the power. Now we'll start by talking about that third point, the engine. If you were to tell me that Toyota took the second gen Raptor V6 Twin-Turbo EcoBoost engine and put it in here, I would 100% believe you. They feel and sound almost the exact same, and that was my first thoughts Even the exhaust sound is quite similar to the Twin-Turbo V6 on the Ford Raptors. So this is coming in at 437 horsepower and then 583 pound-feet of torque. Now that additional torque is coming from the electric motor that's in this between that engine and transmission, but overall they do feel very, very similar. Now with this, our 0 to 60 is I think 6.2, 6.3 seconds, which is a whole second less than the Raptors. But it's a Toyota, so nobody really cares about that number. But when it comes to torque, this thing has definitely got the power here and snap. Now with that iForce Max engine, we're paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission. I really don't have a lot to say. I mean, it does its job as you really don't notice it. You don't feel any weird stepping, shifting, or any time it's underpowered. I mean, when you select the different drive modes, it definitely changes behavior of that shifting. So it does what transmission does. No complaints really there at all. From the iForce Max with that 10-speed transmission, we do get a claimed 20 mpg on this guy, but from the couple thousand miles I put on this, I've never really seen it go above 19.1 actually. Combined with that mpg, you do have a 22.5 gallon tank, and with that, if you did the math, you should be getting around 420, 30 miles per tank for range. But I'm not seeing that. Every time I fill up, it just comes out to about 315 or 320. So I really don't trust the numbers yet on how much range versus MPG it's actually getting. One thing that also is very annoying is on a standard car, you're gonna have your MPG on what your car is getting and then your tank. On here, I can only find the tank average. So every time you shut it off or refill the tank, it kind of starts back over at 0. So right now it says I have 14.2 average. It doesn't tell me my average overall from the miles I put on here, kind of what I'm getting in general. Now back to the first point of this thing being massive, one option that I love, and I think it should be standard on really every single car, is you have full 360 screen display that clicks on whenever you go below a certain speed, maybe 5 or 10 miles per hour. So whenever you're pulling up to something, a parking spot, you can see all the way around you, and that just instantly turns on. The TRX did not have that, and I'm like, why would you not have this when you have this much issue? For the second point on the visibility, in the rear windows you do have those little sliding shades that come up the back. That makes the blind spot even worse in that back right corner. But we do have the full-time rear view camera here on the mirror to kind of show behind you. But I would also recommend picking the towing mirrors to have that wide-angle lower lens on the bottom of your mirrors. Now as far as the overall drive goes on the chassis itself, this is the TRD Pro, so it does not have the smoother suspension that you can get on the Capstone. It is a bit stiff and you're giving up that road capabilities for the off-roading, and it also sways quite a bit in the corners, especially if you're going quicker. I mean, this car has got a lot of mass to it, and then that softer suspension just isn't as ideal. The second part of that is road noise. This thing is pretty loud. It's definitely not a luxurious cabin feel when it comes to sound, especially if you get the optional roof rack. Once you start going around 50, 60, and especially into 70, you have a lot of wind noise on that rack, just part of having a roof rack. So no major complaints, but don't be expecting Range Rover quietness in this car. Now for build quality, the TRD Pros are built all at the TMMTX plant in San Antonio, the Toyota Motor Manufacturing of Texas plant there. And I think the overall feel of this next-gen Sequoia is just top-notch. I've not noticed a single issue. There's really no bumps or squeaks or rattles in this thing. So your NVH is really good, except for kind of that overall loudness of the cabin interior itself. I'm really a huge fan of this entire interior facelift, and then the JBL audio with the 14-inch screen, which does come stock on the TRD Pro, is exceptional. I was thinking the 14-inch screen would be a little bit unnecessary. Going back to my Tacoma after driving this one for a while, it felt tiny. I will say it is so large. I'm pretty tall, I'm right at 6 foot. My arm has to reach, and when I'm in ways and putting in a hazard on the road, I actually have to bend over to hit the right icon in the bottom right to add car on corner or whatnot. With that though, the wireless CarPlay, super clean screen, big fan of it. I just wish they would have put a screen off button down here below on the button switches, similar to what a lot of other companies do, as at nighttime, if I'm not using GPS, I just want the screen to be black, so I only have light coming from the outside. Now, one update I'm not a huge fan of is their multi-screen interface here, and that is removing all your clusters to just a digital screen. This screen is going to be probably platformed across almost all their models just for a cost down, and it's easier to write a script and update your little display here than to physically mold and create new custom gauges in this system. I prefer the custom gauges, especially in the nighttime when you can dim it down low and not have a digital screen glowing at you, but as part of the change. Hopefully in the future they come back and give us our analog gauges. Now, one big con on the TRD Pro is the heads-up display that you can get on the other models is not in here. They just don't have it, and it's fixed plastic all the way along. Now, back to the controls on this car, you do have a complete set of buttons and knobs for all of your air conditioning, so there's nothing you have to go into the touchscreen and mess with. You can do all the rear controls from here, turning it on and off just for everything back there, all capable right here with physical buttons. Down the left-hand side, we do have additional controls for your heated steering wheel. We have that TRD Pro light bar button down here, which only is functioning when you have it engaged and your brights are on, so that you can't accidentally click it on and blind people without noticing it. Then we have the gas release, the odometer button, and the AC power in the rear for those plugs. The TRD Pro is also capable of towing over, I think, 9,000 pounds. So in here, we do have a full suite of trailer controls with your brake engagement on the trailer there. We do have a trailer backing up mode. We have our tow and haul mode, and then we also have an option for a wireless trailer camera where you can mount it onto the back and see behind the trailer. Down right behind the shifter here, we do have a knob that's controlling your drive modes with the Eco, your Sport, and your Normal. When you click the button on the right, you've got the different torque engagement for your haul mode. On the bottom left, we have our multi-terrain select, and then on the bottom right, we have our downhill ascent control or the crawl mode. Set that when you're in four-wheel high. Now, there are a few little items here that I absolutely love. I would not say they are specific to the Sequoia or the TRD Pro, but some just really great perfections they brought into this car. First one being, they got rid of the beeping with your lane assist. So when you steer here, hit the edge, originally on some of the older Toyotas and Highlanders, kind of beeps at you and everybody knows that you're at the edge of your lane. Now it's built in as a little vibration motor into the steering wheel, so when you do start to get there, it just gives you a little bit of a tactile bzz, bzz to come back in. Second item that I really love, with the Siri update on the Apple CarPlay, when you would originally hold down the talk to text button here, your music would shut off and then Siri would pop up and say, what do you want? Now, the speakers shut off in just this zone, so your music is still going around the car, but off only on this part, and then your microphone here is picking up exactly what you want. Now, another cool little feature that's not new to Toyota, all throughout the cabin, you'll see these little bitty speakers, or they look like microphones. I was like, what are those? Wherever you are, when you're, say, pulling into a spot or backing in, there is kind of a 360 beeping sensor of, oh, my back left corner's getting close to the door or the wall. That's where the speaker sounds. Now, another really great feature is the extreme cooling of the seats. Now, it's pretty standard to have the ventilated seats, but these actually get so cold. You've got the 3 modes there. I'll usually go into 1. Otherwise, I'm sitting in it feels like an ice box. I don't know if it's air conditioned or actually cold air coming out, but it is actually really frosty on the butt. So I think that's a great feature, especially in the hot summer. Those are the little details that I think are just perfectly refined in this package. And overall, there's not a lot of nitpicky things that I would go after in this car. Now, even though this car is loaded with tech, I would actually say it feels very tame compared to a lot of the modern SUVs out there. Your responsiveness on the transmission, really good there. The feedback on the cruise control, I feel very in control of the car, and there's not a lot of interference between me and that. And overall, I still feel the drive is very raw relative to the modern vehicles out there. Now, your Sequoia versus the Grand Highlander. Obviously, this is the truck-based platform, so it's quite a bit stiffer and a little more rugged overall. The ride's not going to be as smooth as that. And then also on the interior, as we talked about, the seats flip down here in the middle, giving you a little bit more access to the back. So I know the $80K sticker price is a lot to swallow for a Toyota, but you're really getting every single little luxury in here, except for the massage seats. That's kind of the going rate for just a perfect car these days. Now, the TRD Pro does come with all the optional off-road features as stock, but I really don't think a lot of these are going to be used more on the East Coast or Midwest for that capability, as if you had to go pick an off-road vehicle, this isn't necessarily what the use case would be. I do think they do really well, though, out west, where you have a lot more wide open range. And then going through Toyota's website, all the options they offer for car camping or roof tents or different camp setups and everything that's built specifically for this car, a lot more geared towards the desert and more West Coast environment. Now that's all I've got for you here today on the TRD Pro Sequoia, an incredible and very refined truck that you can definitely tell they went through and took the feedback from all the previous generations and really across their fleet and just tweaked little things here and there to make a very well-rounded beast of a truck that comfortably seats 6.5 people in it. Now if the iForce Max, which is off to a pretty shaky start here, can prove its durability to protect the legacy of the Sequoias, then this is a car I definitely recommend if you need the space. This truck has definitely grown on me since it was released, so let me know if you've got any questions or comments. I'll be happy to get back with you. Have a good day. Peace.